Speaking of feedback, I'm going to link this right away. Let's see. Actually, I'm just going to hang or hold off on that. No need to give me feedback before the class even starts. So I will link a couple things, though. First of all, here is the course syllabus in chat. This contains basically all of the lecture, or at least all the things I would say. So if you have to leave for some reason in the middle of the class, you can still get the bulk of the information from the class. I'm also going to link the slide deck in class so that you can all of the pretty graphs that I have prepared for you guys. This is this class has no practical component. However, it can be helpful to be in the sync liaison region. Anywhere within that region is fine, so long as you are within that market region. That way, if somebody happens to link an item in chat and they want a market analysis of it, or they have a question about what's going on with the prices or things like that, we're all looking at the same thing. But if you don't want to go because you're being camped by war targets, or you're out in nullsec and you just can't make it, that's fine. All of the market graphs I want to talk about for the purpose of this class are included in the slide deck, so you'll be able to see them and follow along just by looking at that. For the purposes of this class, I would ask that you use push to talk. It sounds like all you are at this point, or put yourself on mute. And if you have a question, please highlight that question with a Q in chat so I can see it. Speaking of, you should be in the lecture.E-UNI chat channel so that we can all see the questions and participate there. All right, let's get started here. First, let's talk course objectives. The main thing I want for you guys by the end of this class is I'd like you to get boots on the ground for station trading. By the end of this course, you should know enough about station trading to just get right into it, make your first few trades, see what works, see what doesn't work, and get a general understanding that will get you launched into your station trading career. We're also going to place station trading into the broader ecosystem of New Eden. You should understand not just what you're doing, but why there is money for you in this profession and where that money comes from, and what you are doing for the greater EVE economy and where you fit in that what piece that you play that you fit into the economy. We're not going to be going into fine-grained detail, mainly because I want to try to keep the main part of this course an hour or so, hopefully under an hour, just to respect your time. So we won't be talking about what specific commodities to trade in, mainly because those change by the day, and anything that I tell you now might be wrong tomorrow. So I'm going to instead hopefully give you the tools to identify what kind of commodities that you should trade in. I'm not going to talk about specifics on how to run your business. That is better left to a more advanced class for when you understand a little bit more about what you're doing with station trading and you're looking for advice as to how to manage your assets, track your assets, manage your money, and things of that nature. But for now, we're going to be talking about just the basics of what it is and how we go about the fundamental act of station trading. So first, logical first question, what are station traders? You'll hear a lot of people talk about station traders in various capacities and sometimes in a little bit of a negative light. I feel like there's a little bit less of that than there used to be in the past. But you'll hear people call them the frontline soldiers in the .01 ISK wars. Maybe you might hear station traders be likened to parasites who siphon money into their wallets from everybody else who earned it legitimately. Maybe they're price gougers messing with the economy, because after all, what we do is we buy at a low price and then we sell at a high price. So, I mean, what else could we be doing but price gouging, right? And I want to say that all of those are wrong. Well, okay, so the frontline soldier in the .01 ISK wars, that might be okay. That might be right. But there's not really anything shady going on with station traders. It's a legitimate business model that actually has some benefits for the EV economy, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But the best description I have for station traders is that you're more like a retail store. You bridge the gap between the producer of a commodity and the person who wants to have that commodity. You invest a little of your time to save everyone else a lot of time, because what you do, you are the best at managing all your market orders and keeping tabs on those, and you're able to do that in bulk. So the little time that you spend managing all your orders is a lot of time that adds up to the rest of the Eve community who didn't have to do that and can get on with doing what they do best. And in general, you grease the wheels of the entire new Eden economy. You allow people to be as productive as they can possibly be, and this has the effect of having more goods available and the economy being wealthier in general, just by more goods being available to the general population. And we'll be going into detail on all of those things as the course progresses. For clarity's sake, though, I do want to talk about a few things that station traders are not. First of all, station traders are not speculators. Speculating is a different business model where a person will invest their money into a commodity that they have reason to believe is going to drastically increase in price in the coming days or weeks or even months at times. And then once that happens, they wait for their day, and then they cash everything out for a tremendous profit. On the other hand, in contrast, station traders are constantly buying and selling goods all the time. The longer that a particular item is in your inventory, the worse that it is. Like you don't want to hang on to goods in your inventory for very long. You want to flip them as quickly as possible. Secondly, station traders are not space truckers. Space truckers refers to the people who use hauling ships like industrials or like a jump freighter or things that haul cargo around the universe, and they make their money by maybe doing contract hauling, or perhaps they do arbitrage where they buy something at a high price in one system and then sell to the low price in another system, but the difference in the relative prices is great enough that they can make a profit doing this, and basically hauling goods around and delivering goods to people who need them. In contrast, station traders never have to leave the station that they trade in. All of the goods that you buy will in fact be sold directly back to the market that you just bought it from. Not necessarily the same people, but it does remain in the same location. Thirdly, station traders are not manufacturers. This one's maybe a little bit confusing, that there's kind of a fine line where some people might think that you can station trade by buying materials on the market, making goods with them and then selling them back to the same market. And, while that is a business model, it's not really what I'm going to be talking about. Station traders never actually produce the goods that they trade in. They leave that to other people in the EV economy, and they simply make their profits by dealing in the bulk that they do, and by giving the producer the money that they want immediately, and then holding out for a better price from the consumer. So you are not actually involved in the production of the goods that you trade in at all. And fourthly, station traders are not scammers. I already talked about this, but there is nothing shady about station trading. There's nothing dishonest going on. In fact, what you are doing is in fact a service for the economy, because you are, like I have sort of alluded to, you basically give people what they want when they want it. The people who are producing the goods, they just want to get back to producing goods, and you're able to give them the money that they want to keep on doing so. And then the people who drop by to actually buy the goods from you, they need their goods right now, and they don't necessarily care where it comes from or how much they have to pay, because they have a fleet to catch and they don't want to be late. So, you facilitate all of this for everybody, and you make it, and in that way you make EVE Online a better place for everyone. So why station trade? Well, how does station trading make EVE Online a better place for you? First of all, it is safe and reliable income. This is especially important for people like us in EVE University who are constantly being war decked. I think we currently have at least one war going on, I think by Pirate Alliance. The thing about station trading, like I said before, you don't have to ever undock, and so you can't do anything to stop me if I never undock. All of my trading is done internally, and if you decide to flood one market with goods and crash the price to cut in my profits somehow, or you try to target me for sniping my prices or things like that, you can always just move on to another commodity. Like, there's really nothing that can stop you from doing this, and as such, it's very, very reliable, very, very safe to do. And it's perfect for people who don't necessarily want to have to rely on actually going out to space and getting blown up to make their money. Secondly, it has uncapped income potential. What I mean by that is that for certain activities in EVE Online, like missions and running complexes, things like that, while the amount of money that you get for that is a little variable, on the average, you can say that there is a certain amount of ISK per hour that you get by running those missions or doing that PvE content. However, that number is static, or at least linear, where comes a point where you can't make any more money per time unit than you already are. In contrast, station trading sort of scales with your wallet. The more money that you have available to invest, the more money that you can potentially reap in profits. And there is no theoretical ceiling on this, so you can basically make as much money as you want to, provided that you're clever enough. It's also time efficient. This is one of the big things that sort of ties in with the uncapped income potential aspect, where at some point you approach the apex of the ISK per hour of the mission runner, but because there's no upper bound on the amount of money you can make from station trading, if you're time efficient about it, there's no upper bound on your ISK per hour. So this is a really big reason why I did station trading to make my fortune, was because I value my time more than anything, and this seemed like the best way to go about it. So let's talk about some terminology before we get started. So let's talk about buy and sell orders. So you've probably at this point bought or sold something from the market. However, what you might not realize at this moment in time is who you were buying from and why the item that you wanted was available for purchase in the first place. So when you right-click on something and you click sell, what you can do is you can just click the sell button, and as long as the little box down in the corner says immediate, you'll get whatever anybody is willing to pay for it, and you'll get paid immediately, and you don't have to think about it anymore. However, the drop down in the lower left corner of that pop-up window can be set from anywhere from 1 day to 3 months. And the same is true of buy orders. So basically, anytime you turn your transaction to a non-immediate transaction, it turns into an order. And a buy or a sell order is basically a promise that I will buy or sell this item, this quantity of this item, at this price, at this location. That's an important one that a lot of people don't really think about, but the buy and sell orders always specify a location as well. And I want this order up for this amount of time. Whether something is a buy or sell order is based on the owner of the order. Technically, anytime a transaction occurs, there was both a purchase and both a buy and a sell. But whether the person who has the order is the one that it's named after. So if I have something to sell and I have an order, it is my sell order. If I'm selling something and it's my order, it is my, or I'm sorry, if I'm buying something, it is my buy order, and then you sell to my buy order. The other bit of terminology is escrow. Those of you who have bought a house might already be familiar with this, but anytime you place a buy or sell order, the money that or the goods that that are involved in your transaction are taken from you and placed into safekeeping by the system until such time as the order is fulfilled, at which point it awards that to whoever filled the order. This is so that you can't put up orders for more money than you have, and thus make a weird situation where you have you set aside the goods, or I'm sorry, you set aside the money that you wanted to actually use to buy the good, but if you for some reason didn't have it anymore, that would be a problem. So escrow is there to handle that problem. There is a little bit of a way around escrow, which we'll talk about in skills, but that is the general rule: is that you pre-purchase or reserve. You pre-purchase the goods you want, and you reserve the goods that you're trying to sell. So, what do you need to get started? First of all, most obviously, you need starting capital. You need money to invest. 100 million ISK is a fine start for a budding station trader. That's enough to get you a significant amount of material for sale, and hopefully kickstart your business sooner rather than later. Having half a billion or more is great if you have that kind of money already and if you can spare it. But bear in mind that money will be tied up in station trading and won't be available for you to just generally purchase things. So handing it over to what amounts to a business is something that you'll have to consider whether or not you can actually spare that amount of money. But you put as much money into it as you feel comfortable, and the more money the better, because the more money that you invest, the higher the profits you can make, and the more that your money can snowball. So getting as much money into it as possible in the early parts, at least as much as you're comfortable with, can help you to make a lot more money a lot sooner. Now, with all that said, it actually doesn't matter how much money that you start with, because any amount will work. I began my station trading career with a paltry 10 million ISK, and in the course of about 6 months to a year, I believe, I was able to turn that into several billion ISK. It just took a while to really get that ball rolling. So don't feel bad if you don't feel like you have the money to invest in station trading. Any amount will work, and some of you who do have the money, maybe you only want to invest a small amount. If you're the kind of person that likes to start with a pen and trade your way up to a house, maybe you do that for the personal challenge. This is the way you can do that. Station trading alts are a thing that can help tremendously. I highly recommend them. Having a character that sits in a station and never leaves it, that is available whenever you want to do a station trading session. It saves you so much on time for traveling. It'll save you jump clone cooldowns. And it's just a good idea overall, where like if you happen to be out in the middle of nullsec and there's some kind of hostile action going on that you can't really be a part of, maybe while you're waiting for things to cool down, you hop over to your station trading alt, you make a little bit of money, and looks like you were productive despite the best efforts of your enemies out in nullsec. And you didn't even have to go to high sec to do it. You could just log right back into your main, and you're right back where you were. Ideally, you have one at every station that you trade at, but you do have to trade. There's a trade-off there, because there is a certain amount of training that helps for every station trading alt that you have. And if there are some more important skills that you want on your main, then maybe you want to limit how many station trading alts that you have. Generally speaking, a well-apportioned station trading alt takes about 2 weeks to a month to train, depending on how far that you want to take some of the skills involved. Speaking of skills, you're going to need those. And those skills will do 4 things for you in broad category. The first thing is increase your order limit. Skills can save you money station trading. They'll allow you to trade remotely, and they can even support alternative business models. And we're going to talk about each one of those categories individually. So first, skills that increase your order limit. Those skills are trade, retail, wholesale, and tycoon. All of them do the same thing. They increase the amount of simultaneous orders that you can have at one time. There is no distinction between buy or sell orders. They all count as the same thing. So if you have an order cap of 20, you can have 10 sell orders, 10 buy orders, and no more than that. Or maybe some other combination, maybe 15 buy orders and 5 sell orders, whatever you want, but as long as you don't go over 20, you're fine. So these skills are in a certain tiered order. You can see that like each one, like trade increases your open orders by 4 per level, retail is 8, wholesale is 16, tycoon is 32. They can be trained a little bit out of order, like in some capacity, like I think lower levels of retail will give you more orders per time unit of training than say trade level 5 will, because of the 20-80 rule, where like 80% of your training is in training going from 0 to 5, 80% of your training is all level 5. So keep in mind that you might be able to make some gains elsewhere if you look at some of the higher level skills that you haven't trained very high yet. Alphas are limited to trade level 3, which will limit you to 17 orders at maximum. Next is the category of skills that will save you money, specifically money that goes to taxes and fees. There are 2 that you need to worry about. There's the broker's fee and the sales tax. Broker's fees are charged to any order that is non-immediate. So if you if you buy something directly off the market, or you sell something directly to the market, there's no broker's fee involved. The moment that you set a duration on your price, even if that order fulfills immediately, you are charged a 3% broker's fee on the entire order. You can reduce this broker's fee using the broker relations skill, and this will reduce it by 0.1% per level, dropping it down to 2.5% at max. You can reduce it still further, I believe, down to a minimum of 1.5% by having good station standings with the faction and the corporation that owns the station that you trade at. Although that could be tricky for a station trading alt whose only skills are in trading skills. I never worried about it too much, but if you can get some, it'll save you a little bit of money. That being said, alphas are limited to broker relations 2, which will give you a broker's fee of 2.8. Now, as for sales tax is something that applies to every transaction that is made. However, only on one side of it. So anytime an item sells, it's the person who got the money, the seller of the item, is charged 2% sales tax on the order. And that is regardless of whether it was selling to a buy order or someone buying from a sell order. No matter how it happened, there's a 2% sales tax that happens on the back end of that transaction. As opposed to broker relations, the broker's fee is charged up front. So when you put the order up, you're already charged the broker's fee, but you're not charged the sales tax until the actual order completes and money changes hands. This is important to realize because when you cancel an order for any reason, the broker's fee that you were charged is not returned to you. So you have to be careful what prices that you're setting, and if you have to be reasonably confident that you'll actually be able to either buy at that price or sell at that price, because if you have to change it, then you might end up having paid more taxes on that sale or that purchase that you otherwise would have had to. Anyway, accounting will reduce your sales tax from 2% down to 1%, 0.2% per level, but it is an Omega-only skill. Now, reducing from 3 down to 2.5%, 2% down to 1%, it doesn't sound like very much. But when you start getting to the point where you're trading in the billions, these add up very quickly. I recently started up my station trading alt again just to kind of get back into the habit and the swing of things. And a couple of my orders had a broker's fee up front of $40 million, just straight up. And that's before the sales tax hit me. And that happens at the back end of the transaction. This is really important to keep in mind because profit margins have to be above a certain threshold in order to not still lose money due to taxes and fees. So because a broker's fee is charged on both the buy order when you buy your product and the sell order when you sell your product, then you're looking at 3% at the highest, 3% on both directions of the transaction, plus another 2% on the back end of the actual sale. That's 8% in taxes that are taken right off your profit margin. So if you are trading in an item that has a margin of 6%, you're actually losing money because the taxes and fees are sucking that up. Now, that being said, another really big important reason to trade in these skills is that when profit margins are very tight, having these skills trained up to 4 or 5 will allow you to profit from those tighter margins where players who do not have those skills would be unable to and would be priced out of the market. So that is it's not only a way to save money, it's also a way for you to station trade more competitively. The next category of skills is remote trading. These can be even help. Excuse me. These can be helpful for people who want to station trade, who don't necessarily want to be at the station where they're at. Maybe you are foregoing a station trading alt, and you are doing it on your main. But your main's an EV University, and EV University is perpetually at war. So what do? You can train these skills. Marketing is a skill that will allow you to place sell orders remotely. So you can be, some number of jumps out. I believe level 1 lets you trade, set sell orders to anywhere in system where you are rather than just the station, and then and then the next one is 2, and then it starts doubling from there until by the time you get to level 5, you can trade anywhere in the region where you're currently at. In the same vein, procurement allows you to place buy orders remotely, and day trading will allow you to modify the prices of your buy and sell orders remotely. All these with the same rules of the ranges per level. So all of these skills in combination with each other will allow you to station trade at a distance. And this can be useful even after you graduate from EV University. Maybe you go on to just hang out in a Care Bear Care Bear Corp, and you still station trade. But these can still be useful because what happens is you can one interesting example is JITA is one of the reasons why it's a trade hub is because it's on the border of 3 different regions. So you could trade anywhere within all 3 of those regions just by hopping over the border real quick and then hopping right back. So those skills will allow you to use perhaps the same station trading alt to cover many different places. Do note, however, that you do still need to be within the region for the order. That is the only limitation distance-wise. No skill will allow you to trade outside of the region that you are currently at. Also, alphas are limited to marketing level 2, which will place you at a 5 jumps max for placing your sell orders remotely, and alphas cannot place buy orders remotely at all. And the last category of skills I'm going to cover just sort of for the sake of them. I feel that these skills are less necessary to station trading, at least how I do it. But it can be useful to know about these so that you can perhaps incorporate them into your business model. So the first skill is visibility, which increases the scope of the area from which any single one of your orders can purchase. This is distinct from the skill I talked about just before with procurement. Procurement allows you to place a buy order whose home station is in another station from the one that you're at. Visibility, on the other hand, allows you to place an order that just that one order is able to buy items from many different systems all at once. If you've ever seen in the buy orders in any given item, if on the far left column of the prices, you'll see jumps, and that is the number of jumps from the home station of the order that person, that particular order is willing to buy from. So this can allow you to acquire more product from more places, because rather than being the most competitive price on the market, sometimes you can just be the closest one. Because it takes a while to get to a trade hub sometimes, and if you can sell all your stuff, right here and now and save yourself 8 jumps, maybe you do. So that's a way that you can that you can do that for a very large area, in fact, and that's a way that you can acquire a lot of product very efficiently. However, efficiency is maybe the wrong word, because there's a double-edged sword on this. When an item is sold to you in a different station from where the actual home station of the order is, that item is not transported to the station where the buy order is. It stays where it is. So you still have to go and get it, which might not seem all that onerous, except that when you consider that there's systems that have upwards of 5, 10, maybe 15 stations in them, and any one station, as long as the system is a viable system, is within reach of your buy order, any one of those stations is valid, and you could end up hopping 15 different stations and having to warp to every single one of them. Are you still hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there. Internet hiccups. They happen. So, as I was saying before, be careful with the visibility skill, because if you never want to undock, you would, this is probably not going to work out how you think it will. Even if you pay somebody else to transport your goods, the amount of money that you spend doing that will cut into your profit margins, and it can be really difficult to find a place for visibility in station trading, which is why I don't deal with it. The other skill is margin trading. This one is a little bit more relevant to station trading, because remember I talked about escrow, where when you say I want to buy 10 items at 100 ISK each, which puts it at 1,000 ISK of upfront cost, and all that goes into escrow. And the thing about that is that if you use the margin trading skill will allow you to decrease the upfront funds that you need to put into escrow and retain it in your wallet until the order fills. Now, this can allow you to sort of overinvest a little bit, where, if you have, say, 500 million ISK to invest, and you spend 100 million of it on 5 different things, 5 different commodities, then that, if you're only investing 100 million in each one of them, then that works. But margin trading will allow you to invest even more than that. So you can actually put up buy orders for more money than you actually have, at least right now, and hopefully when the time comes for the order to fill, you'll have made the money due to you're running sell orders, that the money will then be taken out of your wallet at that point. Actually, what happens, the money is taken out of your wallet for each item. So basically, if you take the amount of money that you need for your upfront escrow, and then you take the amount of money that you are short for the entire order, then you divide that evenly amongst all the individual items. Anytime an item actually sells, then it takes a little bit of money out of escrow, and the rest of the money for that one item is taken out of your wallet. And if you don't have that money, this is where things can backfire on you. If you don't have that money, the entire order closes, and you are officially out of the market until you can log back in and set the order up again. And you're also out the broker's fee. So I personally don't use margin trading as much of an advantage as it sounds like. If you can carefully manage it, it's probably great. But I carefully manage my own money well enough already. And in some ways, having margin trading would actually mess up the system that I use to keep track of my assets. So if margin trading sounds like a thing that could be useful, give it a shot. But I think bear in mind that I think once you train margin trading, I think it can never really be undone. So if you feel like you can make use of it, go lie down for a while, and then maybe lie down for a week, and then see if you still feel that way after a week goes by. As far as I'm concerned, margin trading is only useful in the particular kind of market scam that I can go over in the Q&A if you want to, but I don't really have the time to spare on it right now. So now that we have a station trading alt, and he has money and he has skills, where do we go? Most notably, you want to go to the high volume hubs. You want to go to JITA. You want to go to Amar, Do-Dixie, Heck, Renz. You've heard of all of these probably. If you haven't, these are the actual locations of this, like the moons and stations where they are located. But these are not necessarily the only places where you can station trade. Basically, anywhere where people go to dump off their routing loot is viable for station trading. And that can be way out in nullsec. That can be, very close to HiSec campus. Maybe Fort Glory, is a place where you want to do some station trading. It might, like it says, it might mean citadels. That's perfectly legitimate. In fact, there are some citadels that are trying to compete with the market hubs. There's one in Perimeter that is trying to compete with JITA 4.4. I cannot remember the name of it, but there's plenty of people that are trying to compete with me there. So don't feel like you have to be at these places specifically. There are the offshore locations, as they are called, are evidently very viable. I haven't tried them yet, but it seems like a thing that you could do. So, what do you do when you're actually station trading? Here's the broad blueprint. In any given station trading session, you want to log in. You want to note that most of your sell orders have sold, meaning that you have money available. You want to note that most of your buy orders have filled. That means you have product. So you're going to update the prices on the remaining orders to get those prices to be competitive, whether they're buy orders or sell orders. Make sure they're at the top of the list. And then you're going to roll the purchased orders, the purchased goods into new sell orders, and you're going to roll all the money that you have into new buy orders. And you're going to log out. 15 minutes, that's all it takes. But you want those 15 minutes to be as profitable as possible. How do we do that? We define product that's reliable. Identifying reliable product comes down to three key aspects. The first is it has good volume. It turns over quickly. That means that people are constantly buying and selling the product. People are coming to market with the item in their cargo hold with the intent to sell. People are leaving the market with that purchased good in their cargo hold intending to use. You need both in order for station trading to exist. You need high profit margin. Something that, like if you invest, 100 million ISK in one item, and that item has a 20% profit margin, guess what? You just made 20 million on that trade right there. And that was just probably one thing that you were trading in. And managing those orders probably took you about a minute. You also want high value where you can. What I mean by high value is the individual items are priced very highly. The reason why this can be good is so that if you basically any time an item actually is sold to you, more of the money that you invested is involved in the transaction. And so it's just a way for you to move your money faster. Like if you're trading in something like drones that cost, like a Tech 1 drone costs like, a couple thousand, it takes you quite a number of them to equal a single, like a large rail gun or something like that. A large rail gun will, every single one of those will tie up more of your funds than smaller items like those drones will. So if you can make high value, you should. Now, no, it doesn't have to be all three of those things simultaneously. In fact, it will rarely be all three of those things. And if it ever is, the competition for that item will likely be very high. These things can sort of make up for each other. Like the high value might make up for the lack of volume that otherwise you would want. High profit margin, or having a low profit margin, maybe you make up for that by just moving lots and lots and lots and lots of product all the time. So don't feel like you have to wait for the Holy Grail, because you're probably not going to find it. The bottom line is you want good throughput, and 2 out of 3 ain't bad. In fact, 2 out of 3 is probably quite good. So how do we find product like that? First of all, you have to understand the ecosystem of your product. You have to understand what it is, who is acquiring this product, where is it coming from, who are you buying from, how do they source it, and what are you doing in station trading that is of use to them. So as an example, a good source for product for station trading is high-sec mission runners. The reason why they are such a good fit is because they produce loot as an active process. They go out and they shoot things with their ships, and then they loot them into a can, and then they salvage all the wrecks and things like that. And whatever it is that they happen to be doing, they have to be actually with their butt in the seat pushing the buttons. And what that means is that every minute that they're spending messing with market windows, trying to get the best possible price for an individual item that they probably only have one of, is a moment when they're not making money. So what they want to do is they want to roll up into a trade hub and with everything they got, and they want to right click, sell it all, just dump it all in the market in one big thing and get the heck out of there and go back to doing what they do best, which is ratting. So what you do on behalf of them is you have the sell order that is that they want to be there. You're going to give them the money that they want so they can get the heck out and get back to doing what they do. And then you're going to acquire all their product from them, and then you can have a little bit of patience because you're dealing in such bulk, and actually you do get the best price on the market because you are basically in how would I word this? What you're basically doing is you're dealing in such bulk that you are economizing the time and basically doing this on behalf of 30, 40, 50, 100 mission runners who the however number of people that you're buying items from. You are messing with market windows once, whereas if all of them had done it, the number of man hours that it would have taken would be tremendously high. So that's where the profit is in it for you. That's the service that you provide the high-sec mission runner. He's glad that you're doing it. And the people who buy from you, they're glad that you're doing it because they get the product they get right away, and you're saving everyone time. That's what you do. Now, a bad fit for station trading would be manufacturers, and that's because of the contrast between how they get their product. They create product passively through the manufacturing process, things like Tech 2 modules, ships, rigs, things like that. What they do is they dump materials into a queue and they walk away. They don't have to worry about the fact that messing with market windows is taking time away from their money-making venture, because their money-making venture happens all by itself. They don't got to have their butt in the seat. So as such, they're a lot more willing to sit and look at the market and say, I think I'm going to sell for the higher price because this is all the product I have and I'm not going to have new product for, checks watch, approximately 3 days. So I have the time to invest to get the best price on the market. They have no need of your services. And as such, you're going to have a lot more of a difficult time acquiring product, a product that is sourced from manufacturers, that is, because basically they're not just dumping it into a market and calling it good. Some of them do, but not nearly as many of them do, and so it can be tough. So in order to identify product, it can be really helpful to be able to read the market graph. If this might look a little arcane, a little boring perhaps, if you don't really know what you're looking at, but this is actually very rich in information if only you could interpret it. So let's go over what all these things mean and especially what they mean to you. So over on the far right, you've got the trade prices. That's just sort of the y-axis of the graph that gives you context for what's going on here. And then all the little orange dots, you can see the green arrows pointing to them, are median day prices. The median day price is distinct from the average price. They are not the same thing. The average is what you get when you take a whole bunch of numbers in the list and you divide the sum of all those numbers by the total number of items in the list. The median, in contrast, which is what we are looking at here, is what you get when you take all the numbers in the list, all the prices for that day, and you order them low to high, and then you take the price that is exactly in the middle of the list. Not in the middle of the range, but of the list. So if you have, 5 instances of 1 and 1 instance of 100, the median is 1. It's not a little bit higher than 1 because the 100 had an influence on them. No, the 100 has no influence because it's not in the middle of the list. Number 1's in the middle of the list. Now, the reason why median day price is more useful than average is because it gives you a sense of the trend of that day, of what was going on. If you see because you can see a line going up and down from the orange dot, and that represents the range of the entire list. So while you're looking at the graph, if you see a dot that is on the bottom of that line, that means that the majority of orders that were filled that day were the low price. That would be like buy orders, the people who are looking to get the product very cheaply. And then if it's on the top end, then that means that more product was purchased from sell orders than sold to buy orders. So you can get a sense of whether it was a buyer's or a seller's market for that day, and that could be useful to know. Speaking of that vertical line, the vertical line is conveniently sort of distilled into this gray area that kind of jumps around and it's a lot wider than the rest of the graph. So this is called the Dantian channel, and basically what it represents is, at least for us, this is a very important part of the graph. What it represents for us is essentially the profit margin. What's the difference between the low price and the high price? You can see right where the Dantian channel label is in the red lines. That the profit margin is almost 75%, going as low as 1 million, as high as 1.75 million. So that's a very important part of the graph. You want to see a really nice, thick Dantian channel when you're looking at your graph. The blue and the orange lines are a little bit less important to us, but they can be useful just to note general trends. And those are the moving 5-day and 20-day average. The blue line's the 5-day, the orange line is the 20-day. And basically those just follow the orange dots around. If you see an orange dot above the blue line, then very likely the slope of the blue line will tip upwards towards it. If it's downward trending enough, sometimes it'll only just lessen the slope down, but often enough, you'll see it follow the orange dot very closely. And then the orange line just sort of follows the blue line around. It's just a lot more stable than the blue line because it's the average of the last 20 days. And this can be useful to just sort of note where the price is going. Hopefully what you have in your product is something that has a lot of stability. So if you are, if you see it trending upwards, I mean, that can be good. Trending downwards, that can actually be kind of bad for, maybe esoteric reasons, but like the bottom line, if the price is trending, downward too quickly, then the profit margin is sort of getting eaten up. And so you don't want to see a downtrending line if you can all help it. Seeing something going up can be nice, but a completely stable horizontal-ish line is perfectly acceptable. The blue bars down at the bottom, you can see the white box around that in the side, is the quantity, that's the volume of the items that are being sold that day. And if you point at the blue bars, you'll also get a sense of the number of orders that quantity of product filled. So that can give you a sense of how big the orders are for that item. Generally speaking, you want to see really, really high quantity, stable quantity as well. If it's really, really spiky, that can sort of mess with you a little bit. We'll talk about that in the next couple of graphs. And then down at the bottom is the date range. You can see that, right now we're looking at only a small portion and not even like today of the graph. So what you can do is you can drag that around, to see, basically what's going on for as far back as a year, I think. And then you can actually drag the slider, or slide the sides to get a larger or smaller picture all at once. It's actually very convenient. And you can use the scroll wheel, on the main part of the graph to zoom in and out of the trade price. So in case there's a gigantic spike that's making it difficult to differentiate between high and low prices that are actually more normal for this product, you can use the scroll wheel to zoom into the real prices, and that spike can just be off the screen in no man's land for all you care. Incidentally, in order to find this graph for any product, what you do is you get market details for an item, and then, right under the icon for the product at the top, you'll see two tabs. One's market data, and then the other is price history. The graph is in the price history tab. So let's take a look at some market graphs and see what would be some good products to trade in. This is the Caldari Navy Vice Admiral Insignia 1 graph. And there's some really nice things about this graph. First of all, the orange dots are both high and low. They're kind of variable about where they are from day to day. This is good for us because what that means is that you can both acquire product and you can sell product. If you see the dots on only one side of the graph, that means that maybe it's a buyer's market, maybe it's a seller's market, depending on what side they are, but you are both a buyer and a seller. You need dots on both sides. So seeing a wide distribution of those dots is generally a good sign. You'll see that we have a margin of about 10% over on the side, this seems to be going as low as 4 million. It's maybe hovers around, 4.5 to maybe 4.7 million. So maybe it's a little bit higher than 10%. But there are some times when it narrows down a little bit and you have to kind of account for that. So we're looking at a minimum-ish of 10%, profit margin, which is not bad. It is, if you don't have those skills I talked about, a lot of that is getting eaten up in the 8% total sales, taxes and fees. But there's still some profit in it for you. If you can move enough product, maybe a 2% margin still works out for you. It has for me. So, don't feel as though you need to wait for the huge margin when a lesser margin will do. And in fact, is maybe a little bit more low-key and flying under the radar and has a little bit less competition. And then down at the bottom, you see that the quantities in the thousands with some nice spikes going up over 4,000 or so. So all in all, this is an excellent candidate for station trading. This doesn't necessarily mean that this will work out, that you're going to make a lot of money off of this day to day. That depends on a lot of factors, like whether or not it stays it stays consistent, who's already in the market, but this is definitely a product worth looking into. By contrast, this is the market graph for the Imperial Navy Fleet Rear Admiral Insignia. So some of the bad things about this graph are you'll see that the orange dots are in these flat, straight lines, which means that for the entire day, basically the most common price was one price. And, it seems like it'd be a good thing for, you see that jump that happens after the first 7 or so dots, now I can sell my product. Now that I bought it for that low price, now I can sell it. I bought it for $4 million and I can sell it for, looks like about 4.6. But the problem is that you need to be constantly moving products all the time. You need to be constantly buying replacement product for all the product that you're selling. So when the price jumps like that, the only price that anything is ever trading for is that one price. And so you're going to have a problem in that there's really just no profit margin there for you at all, because you're buying and selling for the same price, and you're essentially just losing money on the sales tax. On top of that, and probably even more important than all that, is the fact there's almost no volume to this product at all. Where like the high is like 20 units moved in one day, and that was good for this product. So this is a horrible product. And when you get pretty good at reading market graphs, you can tell that kind of thing at a glance, not worth looking at. Move on. So the next graph is for the Imperial Navy Sergeant Insignia 2. This is, I picked these products specifically, because I wanted to give you a sense of the fact that even amongst a product that is supposedly good for station trading, like faction tags, that's mission loot, and you're getting that from high-sec mission runners. So theoretically, this is good, but not all product that mission runners bring back are created equal. And sometimes the demand for something is very high, sometimes it's very low. It all just depends on that sort of thing. And the more that you know about the product that you are trading in, the better of a sense that you'll be able to get as to whether this is going to be a good thing to have. So, this is the Imperial Navy Sergeant Insignia 2, and you'll notice that there are some good things and there's some bad things here. First of all, the low price of 50,000 on the low end goes up to almost 150,000 ish on the top end. Maybe that looks to be maybe like 140, 135. That's like over 100%, almost 200, over 200% profit margin. So the margin is very high. So that could be good. But you'll notice that the median day prices are mostly on the bottom, meaning that it's going to be pretty easy for you to acquire product, but you're going to have some difficulty selling it off, because it's only very rarely, and by rarely, I mean maybe a few people every like couple days, 3 or 4 days even, will come in and buy product off of you in any significant quantities. So if you're willing to sit that long, okay, but ideally what you're doing is you're constantly buying and selling things all the time with no gaps in between, and having to sit on that product means that money's not working for you. So on top of that, the volume is very spiky. You'll see down in the very lower corner that the average volume is usually a little over 1,000, but sometimes spikes over 4,000, and some of those some of those spikes happen to correspond with the high prices. So, like that, if you're willing to wait, maybe that works out for you, and maybe this is where you carve your niche out. But it is unstable. It's a little bit unreliable. So proceed with caution on this. You can probably find a better product than this. This is the market graph for the Armor EM Hardener 2, which the fact that I said 2 should ring a bell for you guys, for those of you who know about all the various meta levels of modules. This is a Tech 2 item, and Tech 2 items are not found anywhere. The only source of Tech 2 items is production, is manufacturing. And this is a great example of what manufacturing graphs tend to look like. You'll see the first few days of the graph that there are some dots on the low end, but the vast majority of days have their median day prices on the top end, meaning that that's where the product's moving, is on the top end. If you can get your hands on the product, you'll have no problem selling it. But as a station trader, not producing goods of your own, you're going to have a lot of difficulty acquiring it. So, on top of that, the margin's very tight, and the volume is a little bit on the low side in the hundreds. So this is not an ideal product for the economic reasons that I mentioned, of there just not really being a place for station traders to trade in manufactured items. I've tried it several times with various items, and it just never really works out. So I would avoid it entirely. But if you do want to try it just for the sake of it, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did it wrong. And if so, feel free to prove me wrong. But in my experience, I don't think that manufactured items make very good station trading items at all. All right. Well, with that is all the content that I have for this, for the class portion of the intro to station trading. I want to thank you all for showing up for the class, and I would appreciate it if you filled out the class feedback form, which I'm linking in chat right now. That way I can get a little bit of info on how what people are getting from this class. Whether it's fulfilling your guys' expectation, if there's things that you would like to have seen in there, or if you thought it moved too fast or moved too slow, things like that. Whatever commentary that you have, I get all of that. I get all the like stats and aggregate and all the comments verbatim, minus the person it came from. So please fill that out. It helps a lot for me to gauge what I should do with this class. Also, if there's any questions that you have, I'm available. There's really no need to hang out if you have somewhere to be, but if you have questions, now is the time. And I will answer whatever questions on whatever level, whether it's questions about the content I just went over, or some more advanced topics, which I hope to have a class involved with the advanced topics fairly soon. That goes into less of the just the high level stuff. So if you want to ask about that kind of stuff, feel free. I'm open the floor to questions that basically anything you want to ask. Wow, quiet bunch tonight. No questions at all. No, you cannot have a $100 million disc because I know you have it.